Now, every year, Parliament's Joint Constitutional Review Committee must review the Constitution and report to the National Assembly and the National Council of Provinces. Now, to enable the committee to conduct its work, Parliament's Joint Rule 102, that's 102, empowers the committee to invite written submissions on constitutional matters. By May, the committee must issue a public notice calling on the public to submit their views within 30 days on any part of the Constitution that they believe should be reviewed. Now, the purpose of the review is to determine and recommend to Parliament whether a submission justifies a constitutional amendment in line, of course, with the will of the public. Now, to talk further about the constitutional review process and its significance, we joined virtually now by the co-chairperson of the committee for the 7th Parliament, Advocate Glynnis Breytenbach. Advocate Breytenbach, thanks so much for your time. Welcome to Morning Live.
Good morning. Thank you very much.
So let's just start with this process of constitutional review. Just for the benefit of those who may not be familiar with it, just give us some insight into this process and how it is actually conducted and how often.
So the purpose of the Joint Constitutional Review Committee is to look at proposed amendments for the Constitution. People think that the Constitution cannot be amended, shouldn't be amended. It has been amended, I think, 18 times already. And the Constitution is a living document that reflects the society in which we live. So, of course, as society changes, progresses, the Constitution needs to keep pace. What the Constitutional Review Committee does once it's been constituted, annually we set out an advertisement in all the major newspapers, on social media, and in as many places as we can to call for submissions from the public on what they think needs to be revisited in the Constitution. So they make suggestions about which sections of the Constitution they think need to be attended to, and then those are in writing and they're dealt with in writing. Those that are very comprehensive or are of great public interest, we invite people to the committee to present their views on the amendment that they propose. And once that process is finalized, then the committee processes all of those review suggestions. Some of them are really not acceptable and they get set aside. Some of them are not practical, they get set aside, and those that have importance are then processed by the review committee. We debate them, all the members debate them, and then those that get through that process are presented to the National Assembly, who then vote on whether, and also the National Council of Provinces, they then decide on which amendments are of sufficient importance to be dealt with in a review process. So then that review will be drafted in the form of a constitutional amendment and debated in Parliament. So it's a process that takes quite a while. It's a lengthy, very time-consuming process, but very important because it gives South Africans the opportunity to own their own constitution and to make decisions about their own lives. So it's a process that the committee spends all of its time on and takes very seriously.
So, Advocate Breytenbach, in terms of what you've just explained, how does the committee then weigh up and decide which submissions actually warrant, merit in the process or not?
Well, the committee is made up of members of the National Assembly and members of the National Council of Provinces. So they bring to the committee, and there's a whole variety of skills on the committee. So they bring to the committee a variety of viewpoints and the viewpoints of their constituents. The suggestions for the reviews are weighed up in the committee, and then of course there's a full legal department in Parliament that we call for legal opinions on the reviews that are going to be entertained, and then by way of need, some of them are obvious, very important, and For instance, in the last administration, sign language, South African Sign Language, was elevated to the position of an official language, and that was as a result of the work of the Constitutional Review Committee. So the suggestions such as that would be debated, the law surrounding it looked at, the practicalities, the importance, and then a legal opinion will be sought, and then if it passes all of those hurdles, then an amendment will be drafted. So it's a lengthy and very cumbersome process, but again, very necessary.
But do you then consider each and every submission that you receive in that way?
Yes, every submission is considered by the committee. Every submission doesn't go the route of a full debate and legal opinion. Some submissions are clearly intended not to be serious. And some, for instance, almost every year we get a submission that the death penalty should be returned. Clearly, that's in direct conflict with the Constitution as it stands. There's no public support for such an amendment. So that amendment would not, pass the test and go through all of those hoops.
That's actually an interesting example, Advocate Breytenbach, because whilst I think we understand and agree that this is at variance with the Constitution as things stand, this is about constitutional review. So how would the process look if the majority of South Africans, and especially given the rampant crime in our country, if South Africans at this point feel that there needs to be more punitive measures to deal with the crime rate in our country and just the murder rate in our country, and they say, okay, maybe we want the death penalty back. So it is at variance with the Constitution, but how do South Africans actually give expression to the fact that they would like the Constitution to be reviewed in that particular case?
Well, normally you would have a look at the number of submissions that are received, and usually for the death penalty there's maybe one or two random submissions in the face of many thousands of submissions. And so it doesn't have the kind of support that is obvious. The South African Constitution and the Bill of Rights fundamentally guarantee the right to life. And so that would be an extremely controversial, extremely difficult, and if you forgive me in my own personal view and my experience as a lawyer, an amendment that takes us nowhere.
But if this is the will of the people, because the Constitution ultimately is an expression of that will of the people. So, as you say, it comes up all the time randomly, but has it actually been tested in the public domain? How do you go about getting a sense of where the public stands on that particular matter? And it brings me to the next question with regard to the constitutional review process. And how are ordinary South Africans reached in this process? The person sitting in rural Mkanduli or, some far-flung area, or just the ordinary person on the street. How are they reached? How do we make sure that they participate in this process as well?
So the is a public committee, and can watch it, listen to it, come and sit in on it. The public opinion is tested, sending out of the advertisements and inviting submissions. So if 1 year the committee would receive out of, let's say, take a random figure, 2,000 submissions, if we would receive, say, 50, 60, 70 submissions asking for the return of the death penalty, then that's something that we would have to have a look at very seriously, invite public participation into that review process, and give it the attention that it deserves if it's clearly an expression of a large segment of the population. Then clearly that is the function of the committee. But when you get one random request for it, out of 2,000 or 3,000 review submissions, then it doesn't take up the space that other more supported suggestions take. But if it was clear that that was the will of South Africans in general, of a very large segment, cross-cutting segment of the population, then certainly the committee would have to subject it to a process of public participation.
Yeah, and then of course, as you said, it goes through that process where a whole lot of things will be weighed up. Unfortunately, we're out of time, but Advocate Breytenbach, just quickly, for people watching, listening right now, if they want to make any submissions, how do they go about that?
The Constitutional Review Committee has sent out advertisements. They're available everywhere and also on the website of Parliament. The submissions can be submitted via normal post, more easily via email. They will all come to the Secretary of the Parliamentary Joint Review Committee, and they will all get attention from the committee, each and every one.
Well, thank you so much, Advocate Glynnis Breytenbach, the Co-Chairperson of the Constitutional Review Committee, speaking about proposal for submissions on amending certain aspects of the Constitution. Anyone is welcome to actually submit their views and their proposals in this regard.
So interesting. That's a very interesting conversation. We thoroughly enjoyed it.